Every generation of Spartans have their version of a Black Ops team, whether it's the great team members of the Spartan IIs or the Headhunters of the Spartan IIIs. Fireteam Osiris was meant to be the best of the Spartan-IV program, and they were meant to be their Black Ops team. As such, they were built for high-stakes, off-the-books operations like the recapture of Dr. Halsey. They were the operatives designed for the dirty work traditional soldiers couldn't touch. Rather than getting the SEAL Team 6 of Spartans, we got a squad that was narratively wasted in Halo 5 and non-existent for Infinite. Today we will be performing an autopsy on Osiris' corpse, dissecting why they failed as characters, why they vanished from the sequel, and how 343 managed to squander the highest stakes setup in the franchise. Osiris dealt with situations that were too sensitive for the general public, which is why their activities were classified at the highest levels of government. The team was comprised of the top tier of the UNSC's different branches. Ideally, a well-balanced team's members balanced the other deficiencies as operatives. Jamison Locke, team leader. He was a former acquisition specialist for the Office of Naval Intelligence, or ONI. Before becoming a Spartan, he worked as a high-level freelance tracker and hitman. At one point, he actually volunteered to execute the Arbiter, as mentioned by the Arbiter himself in Halo 5. He was the guy Oni sent when they needed a target removed without leaving a paper trail. He also happens to play Will Smith's dad in Men in Black 3.
I know a top-secret organization that could use a man like you.
Next, we have Olympia Vale, the team's signal intelligence and diplomatic expert. Vale is a prodigy who taught herself the Singhili language. She also happens to have one of the cooler backstories for how she became a Spartan. She spent most of her professional career actually aiming for ambassadorship between humans and elites, rather than as a soldier. It didn't stop her from bawling out when it became necessary during a mission, however, and Oni took note of this when it came time for the Spartan-IV program and for selecting candidates. Our third Spartan on Fireteam Osiris is Holly Tanaka, who is unfortunately the most forgettable of the group, despite also having a cooler backstory than even Vale. She grew up on Minos, which is a mining colony that happened to be glassed by the Covenant. So while she was busy trying to find clean water and a source of food, as well as shelter from the nuclear fallout, she was also dealing with the fact that the Covenant were hanging out on the planet the whole time. Last but certainly not least, Edward Buck, Nathan Fillion. Questionable choice in women.
You ever fall for a woman? Make sure she's got balls.
After the events of Halo Bad Blood, Buck made the jump from ODST to Spartan-IV. He's a veteran presence meant to keep the team from imploding. The hype for this team was built on the foundation of some of the best and/or most controversial marketing 343 ever produced. This new squad's reason for its very purpose also happened to shift the dynamics of Halo's UNSC even further than Halo 4 did prior. It took the surrender the AI moments from Halo 4 with Chief's insubordination and had us expecting him to be a full-on enemy of the state for Guardians. 343's marketing approach also provides a wonderful case study into why you should have open lines of communication between the marketers and the people producing the actual product. These two trailers, All Hail the Conquering Hero and The Hunt is On, presented two conflicting realities. This promised a story about truth, perspective, and the gray area of Spartan service. We expected a narrative where the player had to decide who was actually right. Both trailers presented Chief and Locke as fully ready to bust a cap in each other, which sure was something. Look, we have Spartan 2s and we have Spartan 4s. We have completely different backgrounds for both. We expected a clash of cultures. The Spartan 2s are child soldiers who were abducted from home and replaced by clones designed to die and traumatize these soldiers' families, which is, yeah, not a good look. On the other hand, the Spartan 4s are career professionals who chose this life, and many got to have an at least normal childhood. This is a fascinating dynamic to explore. The old guard versus the new professionalism, but it was largely ignored. The marketing suggested Locke would be this ruthless and heartless Oni puppet. We expected a Spartan who followed orders to a fault, the same way America follows Israel. We expected someone who viewed the Master Chief as a dangerous AWOL asset that needed to be neutralized by any means necessary. So as someone who was 12 when Halo 5 dropped, I wasn't fully conscious yet to see what the community was feeling at the time. For those who were, what were you actually expecting from this team based on those trailers? Were you looking for a legitimate rival squad to Blue Team, or did you think that they were just going to end up being villains in the form of humans this time? Drop a comment and let's see how those early theories stacked up compared to what we actually got. The actual results that we got in Halo 5, the reality of what occurred, was so much more sanitized and safe than I think any of us truly expected. We had a Buck who was completely subservient to Locke. This was not the same Buck that we had in ODST. All that rich history from the books about his trauma and his hesitation to become a Spartan was also absent. He felt like a yes man with a few funny quips rather than a seasoned veteran who knows when a mission is going sideways. There was some explanation given in the extended material that Buck didn't take over as Osiris's lead simply because he was tired of bearing that weight. But even that kind of angle, that burdened soldier facet, never showed up. Do not get me started on that quote-unquote fight, that quote-unquote confrontation between Locke and Chief. We are talking about enhanced and fully trained super soldiers, which had me expecting some Captain America versus the Winter Soldier kind of fighting. But instead we got what almost felt like a sparring match between two drunken fellas. It lacked the visceral energy promised in the marketing. The stakes felt low because the writing didn't want us to actually dislike Locke, but in doing so they made him boring. A true case of having your cake and wanting to eat it too or whatever. If you're going to go for a Spartan antagonist for Chief, I think you just gotta go for it, you know? You gotta fully commit. I played through this campaign just so I can get this script as accurate as I can and to, fully jog my memory on this stuff. And I realized as I was playing through the game that for some reason, Fireteam Osiris, they just do not talk to anybody outside of themselves. Like, they do a bunch of quipping about the people that they're dealing with, like the mayor of Meridian, Sloan, but they never actually talk to Sloan unless it's Locke. Like, Locke is always the forward person, the point of contact for everybody. And it's strange because you literally have Vale, who is an ambassador, who's been training to be an ambassador, and you just don't use her in these situations. Like, she's literally built to be a diplomat, and for some reason you're sending the CIA agent to do these confrontations, these communications instead. It's so strange. It's a massive missed opportunity as well. I mean, we have Buck, who is arguably the most iconic character on the team, and yet he has zero meaningful interactions with the Chief. I mean, these guys were two veterans of the Covenant War, and we got to see nothing between the two. What's strange about limiting Osiris's interactions and communication to just themselves is that this severely limits the character development of both Vale and Tanaka. Vale is a specialist on Sangheili culture who speaks the language, and yet she doesn't do it in any meaningful way during the campaign with any of the elites, both allied and against us, which is especially silly considering there are a lot of both allies and enemies in Halo 5 that are elites. A very similar case exists with Tanaka, who grew up on a glass planet and Meridian's colonist miners trying to recover a planet from glassing. There had to be something that Tanaka could connect with them about one-on-one. Yet for some reason, we don't see these interactions occur with Vale and the elites and Tanaka with the miners. That sounded wrong, sorry. The most we get is Tanaka telling us that pointing guns at the miners would probably, maybe, just maybe, upset them. Thank you for your wisdom, Tanaka, thank you. This results in both characters being severely undercooked, especially when you compare it to Locke with his miniseries and Buck with Halo ODST. Alright, let's talk about the search on Meridian. The goal was simple. We gotta track Blue Team through a glassed independent colony. Osiris has yet to know what's actually happening with them in the first place. All they know is that Blue Team is AWOL and maybe being kidnapped. Buck is the only one who potentially raises the idea that Blue Team might actually be in cahoots with the Prometheans attacking the station, with Locke doing his best to maintain objectivity, using the word "sir" to refer to Chief when they finally encounter him, which does not go with Locke's character based on what we saw in the marketing and with the context given in the story. Based on the context of who Locke is, he should have been acting completely differently on Meridian. He should have been much more sleuthy, sneaky, and slimy, doing things such as going against what the AI Governor Sloan ordered him to do. A better characterization than what we got in those missions would have been Locke ignoring requests to save miners because the man is too mission-focused. This guy was a headhunter and should have acted much more like it. Tanaka, on the other hand, should have actually spoken to the miners, as I said before. This was the perfect setup to do so, and it's just crazy they didn't. Osiris's goal here on the Battle of Sunaion was twofold. We were assisting the Arbiter in the final defeat of the Covenant on Singhelios, and we were also hoping to hitch a ride on a Guardian to wherever Blue Team went. Vale's role here should have been much more significant. As the group navigates this religious city/site, it would have been much more beneficial to have Vale lead the way rather than have the Arbiter do it for us. Sure, that means less RB time, less RB being significant to the story himself, but it would have helped Vale feel much more needed the same way Tanaka might have been on Meridian. At one point during the mission, Osiris has to reroute to the Undercity to remain on course for the departing Guardian. It makes sense and would add to Vale if she was the one to tell Osiris about the Undercity in the first place. It's a minor fix, but would be very telling about her as a character as a specialist in Sankili culture. The writing team seemed to think it was dangerous to make Osiris too confrontational, yet they had no problem making Cortana evil. Osiris, or at least Locke, should have treated Blue Team way more ruthlessly. Based on the setup for the plot, this was a professional versus legend showdown. Blue Team and Osiris should have had a full-on high-speed Spartan fight, where both sides used their unique skills to win. If Osiris is the best of the best, they should have proven it by actually giving the chief a run for his money. They should have also created internal problems for Osiris. There was practically no friction in this team whatsoever. Osiris should be a relatively newly formed fire team, which means there's some kind of expectation of butting heads. That way, by the end of the story, if they did come together, then we at least have a big picture arc for these characters. Buck and Locke could both obviously butt heads over who should be doing what on this mission. Vale and Tanaka can have cultural clashes, with one growing up during the nuclear winter and the other having a pretty chill upbringing on a ship. Locke and Vale should clash over the diplomacy versus decisiveness for dealing with these threats. Everyone should also have had different views on how Blue Team should be handled regardless. In Halo Infinite, Fireteam Osiris is just gone. 343 managed to respond to the backlash in the worst way possible, by hitting the reset button so hard that they threw out the potential of these characters entirely. The most egregious part is how they handled Locke. In the Infinite campaign, we see his helmet attached to the shoulder of a character called Hyperius, who is one of the banished Spartan killers. This is a silent, off-screen dismissal of a character that had the potential to be a complex anti-hero. Instead of fixing the writing for Osiris, they just deleted them from the equation. It's a narrative dead end to them, and that leaves the fans of the expanded lore wondering why they bothered getting invested in the first place. 343 and now Halo Studios just loves to do this. They love to discontinue plot threads from games. No more Fireteam Osiris, no more Evil Cortana, no more Halo 7. Why do you guys do that? Show some follow through. Looking at this from my perspective as a screenwriter, the failure of Fireteam Osiris is a classic case of failing to pay off the setup. In storytelling, a foil is supposed to challenge the protagonist's worldview or force them to adapt. When you introduce a character like Locke, someone with a background in Black Ops and assassinations, he needs to be a threat. There needs to be genuine friction that makes the audience sweat. By making Locke and his team too agreeable and too compliant, the writers stripped away the very thing that could make them interesting in the first place. They tried to give us a new hero without letting him earn the status through conflict. We ended up with 4 characters who had incredible backstories in the lore, but felt like interchangeable avatars in the actual game. It's a reminder that no amount of cool armor or best of the best titles can save a character if the script is too afraid to let them be messy. Osiris deserved better. We deserved better.